Today, Roger Federer came out flat again with one of his worst sets of tennis, you could say, of the entire year. But he found his game and came through in what felt like straight sets after dropping the first set. About halfway through the first set, Jimmy Arias, who was commentating on the ESPN Online feature, said that Roger should go with his game plan, which is to get into rallies longer, find a rhythm, play with more topspin, play a little more safe. But about an hour and a half later, when Roger was safely in front, Jimmy Arias noticed that, wow, Roger has actually got more consistent by going for more shots, going harder, hitting the ball harder, and being more aggressive. Because people, it is difficult to play like Roger Federer. Even for Roger Federer, if the timing is off by a little, it is very difficult to hit the kind of shots that Roger hits on a regular basis. That's what makes Roger Federer special. He keeps going for these shots. Even when he's not timing his shots, he's failing. He constantly keeps going for the shots. He will not settle for less. He will not play safer. And that's why the guy's got 20 Grand Slams. Jimmy Arias, I like the guy and all, but how many Grand Slams does he have? So Jimmy Arias, you can go ahead and keep your topspin and all your safe shots. Welcome to Coffee Break Tennis. Today on the show, we go through the draw and talk about Roger Federer's match a little bit more. We also got some news on Djokovic. Djokovic, a slight little physical issue, something that my eagle eye spotted a couple days ago. We'll talk about that. Nick Kyrgios, did he finally do enough to get in big trouble? The ATP may be forced by their own rule book to suspend Nick Kyrgios now for something that would seem like not too big of a deal compared to all the crazy things we've seen all year long from Nick Kyrgios. We'll talk about that. Plus, Borna Coric is out again. We'll talk about him. And finally, if we have time, and we may not because I got to go teach tennis lessons in just a moment, I got a thing here from Felix Auger all day Aliassime that we'll talk about because I thought it was a nice quote for him that indicates his great character. Welcome to the fastest growing tennis talk show in the world where there are no double faults, no unforced errors, only winners and balls hit cleanly from the center of the strings by me, your host, Matt Bradshaw, tennis lover, tennis fanatic, known the world over for tennis, for liking tennis, for loving tennis, something like that. Working on that new intro and that new part of the new wrinkles. We always add wrinkles. So where does Roger Federer put the draw on the screen? Where does Roger Federer in the draw now? Well, as you can see on this bottom half of the top, the bottom quarter of the top half of the draw. And by the way, if you see, there is sunshine outside, so we are filming this right after Federer finished his match today because I got hours and hours of lessons. This video will probably go up pretty late tonight. I'm guessing Serena will be playing Katie McNally. By the way, tune in. Well, I guess the match will possibly be over, but if this is up before Serena and Katie McNally's up, check that out because Katie McNally is a local hometown hero who grew out of the club at Harper's Point, where me and Peter Freeman for 4 years now have been doing our fabulous Tennis Masters Clinic. So let's look at the quarter where Federer is at. He's through zoomer. The umpire was almost, it sounded like she was saying Dumbo. Dumb, but it sounded like Dumbo for some reason. I'm calling him zoomer still. Next up will be Mr. Puy or Dirty Dan Evans. Roger Federer's practiced, he practices with pretty much everyone, but he spent time with them off-site of a tournament. He's had them come out to wherever Federer's training at the moment. I believe Luca Puy was the one he had out there in 2017 in that famous video where everyone got to see Roger training in Dubai. Of course, him and Dirty Dan Evans were hitting in like some Swiss mountains before Wimbledon. So winner of that is Federer's next opponent. And I thought it was interesting, Luke Jensen, who's on the ESPN, of course, he's of the famous Jensen Bros, who won the French Open in doubles in maybe 91, 92, I want to say. He was on there, and he was saying how Federer better watch out if he keeps starting so flat. And by the way, Federer did have much spectacular play after that initial first set, which maybe was uglier than the first set he lost against Sumit Nagal, not Nadal. But looking at this here, I see what Luke Jensen's saying. Luke Jensen's theory is that people are not really so afraid of Roger Federer anymore. Obviously, they go into this match, and he's talking about lower ranks, someone who's 50 in the world or 100 in the world. Obviously, they know they're probably not going to win. Jensen didn't say that, but I'm sure he I'm probably going to see him in October at Tennis Fantasy Week with the Crunch Time Coaching, and I'll ask him then. But I'm pretty sure he knows that these guys go in not thinking they're the favorite, not thinking they have a great chance at beating Roger. But as he said, it's a chance for a country club win. For the rest of your life, you can always say, oh yeah, I beat Roger Federer one time. Leave out the part that it was when he was 38. Leave out the part that it was one of the worst weeks of his life, which if Federer keeps this up, we could say this is one of his worst weeks at a major in his whole career. So these are some guys to watch out for, like Pablo Carrera Busta, what's his name? Ricardos Berankis, the little guy. Berankis from Lithuania. Barrere, young French guy. Goffin, we all know Cousin Fed, the gopher, goes for everything. Pouille and Evans, of course. So yeah, these are all guys who, if Federer plays as bad as he did in the first set, but even then, I think he'd still beat most of these guys. I would say Pouille is capable if he has a great day, like the best day he's had all year, save for maybe some of his best days at the Australian Open back to the beginning of this year. Maybe Pouille could take the racket out of Federer's hands. But that's the problem with guys like Zoomer, guys like Sumit Nagal, guys like Berankis, PCB, Busta, a little more firepower. David Goffin, of course, he's got his weapons, mainly his timing and his speed. But he can do more damage than the couple of guys that Federer's played. All these guys, a little more threatening. I still think if Federer has one bad set, he still wins the next three, or he goes 5. Kind of like that match 2 years ago against Francis Tiafoe. I think it was the first round here. Tiafoe, more weapons than the first 2 guys that Federer's played here. Federer playing terrible, able to get a win somehow in 5. Then when we go below that, Borna Coric is now out with a back problem. I had a piece on that. We'll go into more details, but we don't have a lot of time, so I'll just tell you now. Borna Coric, sadly for him, he's out of this thing, and he was one of the seeds in here that maybe you would say is dangerous to Federer because he's beat him in the past. Now, Dimitrov, good for him, huh? He needed that. He gets a walkover, and he's either going to play Pablo Cuevas, who likes to play, and some guy I've never heard of, Kamil from Poland, Kamil Majrak. What is he ranked? I don't know much about him, but if you're Dimitrov, it's great to play some guy I've never heard of, or Pablo Cuevas. It's pretty winnable for Dimitrov to get to the 4th round. I mean, just what the doctor ordered for him. Nishikori, I saw a little bit of this match this morning. A slight struggle with Bradley Klon in that second set, 7-5 in the 4th, but Nishikori's through. He got a retirement after 2 sets, up 6-1, 4-1 in his first round. This is exactly what Nishikori needs because he's always kind of worn out by the time he gets to the later stages. So if he can get through Christian Garin or the Demon, and then maybe potentially a Dimitrov or Cuevas or this Majrak guy that I've never heard of, maybe Nishikori gets through to the quarters feeling a lot fresher. Maybe he's more of a threat to Roger Federer. But I see Federer and Nishikori coming through. I see what Jensen's point is, but I'm not as alarmed as many people are. Federer's playing flat. Like I said in the last podcast we did, Roger Federer is so depressed after losing to Djokovic and having 2 match points on his own serve at Wimbledon. I'm sure he just stepped away from tennis completely and didn't think about it for quite some time. He looks a little bit rusty, not a lot of confidence from not playing matches, not a lot of confidence for what happened at Wimbledon, I'm sure. It's hurt his confidence a little bit. This will be a tougher loss to shake off. But if he keeps winning here, I think he'll be just fine. And like I said in the beginning of the show, he's going to keep going to play the way he plays because at his age, especially now, that's the only way he beats the top players and wins the U.S. Open. That's why the guy is here. His movement looks good. Doesn't look like he's injured or anything like that. Looks like he has plenty of energy. Don't forget, 2017 Australian Open, Roger Federer struggles in his first couple of matches, plays the Birdman in the 3rd round, and Roger's going to play maybe Pouille. Let's say it's going to be Pouille, Dirty Dan, either one of them. You play a guy who's a little better than the first 2 rounds, and you lift level. Maybe panic if Roger doesn't lift the level like Birdman in 2017 Australian Open. If he struggles even more in the 3rd round, maybe start to panic a little bit. They're replaying the Federer interview right now on ESPN. I think they were on Venus at the time. All right, let's take a look at the bottom half of the draw. Talk Djokovic. We'll get out of here. Oh, you know what? You guys know what's going on with the bottom half draw. We don't have to do too much there. Anything super interesting? Kyrgios is pretty wide open. He plays Hoang. And then probably Mr. Ruppels, who could be tricky. But after that, Berrettini is the only super dangerous-looking guy. Nick Kyrgios potentially goes all the way to the semifinals without facing a single seed. The only guys around are Monfils. He could face in the quarters. Or in the round of 16, Kyrgios could face Berrettini. Kyrgios looked unbelievable last night, but he made a big mistake We'll do Kyrgios in a second. Let's do Djokovic really quick. I have a little physical issue, Novak Djokovic. Djokovic said, I have a little issue. I've been feeling painful for 10 days. Doesn't say specifically here. It bothers a bit. I'm sure it's the left arm, though. In his first round, you see him. He misses some shots. The timing's a little bit off. Still wins pretty comfortably. Shaking out the left arm. That could be a big issue. We'll see. Anyways, he says, I have a little issue. Been feeling pain for 10 days when he plays. It bothers a bit my rhythm from the baseline and on serve, which is everything in tennis. If you can't serve or play from the baseline, what are you going to do, Djoker? You don't play the net that much. It's better than 3 or 4 days ago, and he thinks that the pain will be gone very soon. So let's hope for the Djoker, or let's not hope for the Djoker if we're big Fed fans out there, that gets better. Feeling energized, feeling good. Federer's looking better. Djokovic's arm's hurting again. Full disclosure, I love the Djoker. I would never wish harm upon the Djoker. This is very interesting. Nick Kyrgios facing a ban after calling the ATP pretty corrupt, mate, at the U.S. Open. Against world number 9. I was there in like the 5th row. This was quite a match to see. Karen Khachanov, who's out of the tournament. I mean, that's a big thing I'm not talking about. We'll get into it when I have more time. But how about all the names are gone? Khachanov's gone. Tsitsipas is gone. Tsitsipas said, you're all weirdos. Which was a strange thing, but hey, at least he didn't say, you're a liar. You're a liar. Then he would have gotten big trouble, right? Khachanov, after Kyrgios playing Khachanov in Cincinnati, and then he went inside. Of course, he smashed two rackets in the locker room, comes back out. Didn't ask for permission to go, was part of the problem with there. And then he said, you're the worst effing referee ever, to Fergus Murphy. I had heard originally he said, you're an effing potato, but that's not correct. You were doing some stupid S-word every time I play. And then he left the court, smashed rackets. Then when he comes back, he spits, or before he left, on the way off the court, he spits in the direction of the umpire's chair. Did not spit on him. So some people say that. He didn't spit on him. It's still not nice at all. By the way, look at this clip. Kyrgios did this last night. Besides playing amazing, he also wiped the crotch, then spit into the towel, then threw the towel into the crowd, which I think is kind of interesting. I think he's doing a social science experiment to see, do people really want the freaking towel so bad that they're still going to catch it after I spit in it and rub the armpits in the crotch? On his way off the court, he spat in the direction of the umpire's chair and called him an effing tool, not a potato. Correction! As for his thoughts on the fine, $113,000, Kyrgios said, the ATP is pretty corrupt anywhere. I'm not fussed about it at all, mate. All right. The comments made by Nick Kyrgios after his first round in New York will be assessed under a player major. You see, you can't charge the league with being corrupt. If you say anything that could damage the branding of the ATP, you can be in big trouble. So much trouble that the maximum penalty is a 3-year suspension with a $100,000 fine. Forget the $100,000. 3-year suspension, that's like a $10 million fine. For someone as good as Kyrgios, he can make a lot of money in 3 years. Of course, the ATP is very unlikely to do this. Take a listen to what it says here in the article. The strictest possible punishment, blah, 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 although it seems unlikely the ATP chiefs would kick such a valuable asset off the tour for such a prolonged period. Like I say, good for the game, bad for the game. It depends how you view this whole thing. Bad for the game in the way he does really bad things. It looks really bad for the game. Selling so many tickets, bringing people to the sport. Good for the game, as you see here. Valuable asset. Dollar signs. Not character signs, or whatever that looks like. All right, we got to get out of here. So last thing, Nick Kyrgios is trying to make up for this because he realizes, even he knows that this is a little too far. And I'm not going to crumple this up. I'm going to keep this one for next time. I know my behavior at times has been controversial. It's led me in trouble, mate. Which at times is granted valid, but my issues around others with gaining the same, less and more media attention doing the same similar behavior, mate. Not being sanctioned, mate. All right? Basically, he's saying what he's saying before. Rafa can break the rules with the shot clock. Although Rafa got really mad with the serve clock last night. By the way, Rafa looks great. Throw that out there. Rafa likes the way the court is playing. Although maybe the ball, not lively enough for him either. I'd be curious to hear his presser. I didn't hear it yet. I will catch up on my Rafa press conferences. And I will be watching Djokovic, Katie McNally, Serena tonight very carefully. Of course, it's Juan Ignacio Londero, the guy that I saw Federer beat in Cincinnati. We'll see how he fares against one of the other big three. Thank you for watching the show. Comment below your thoughts on, are they actually going to suspend Nick Kyrgios and how long? It's very interesting because we have, hit the music. Coming up is the Laver Cup, which is now officially sanctioned by the ATP, meaning he can't get suspended here at the US Open, but he very likely will be suspended I'm guessing something like 3 or 4 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, I think was last time a few years ago when he got suspended for tanking a match. So obviously they had to suspend him. If he gets any suspension, he does not play Laver Cup, which makes this, like everything with Nick Kyrgios, very, very interesting, must-see TV type stuff. Thanks for watching. We'll see you very soon. See ya!